There are two questions I get asked so often. Number one, my budget isn't working. What am I doing wrong? And number two, I don't even know where to start. I'm so confused. My head just feels like I'm in a washing machine. I just don't know what to do first. These are really common questions. So, what can you do first? And why isn't your budgeting working for you? I think before you get the calculator out and look at your bank statements, you've got to take a step back. Taking stock is one of the best things you can do just to understand where you are currently and to understand where you want to get to. So unless you've got those two things, really, the middle part, the doing of the actual number crunching, kind of doesn't really make any sense because it's not got a purpose. So this little mini ebook is completely free for you. You're very welcome to download it. I'll put the link for you to do that in the comments below. So what is financial well-being? If you follow me or any other finance kind of people on LinkedIn, for example, if you have a great employer that's already looked into doing financial well-being workshops for you, this will be something you're really familiar with. If not, then this might be quite new to you. Well, if you think about the 7 pillars of well-being as a whole, and that can be your mental well-being, which I know for sure you'll be very familiar with, right through to social, environmental well-being. It's how well you feel given the key pillars of your holistic wellness. Finance underpins so much of that, and it can impact on every decision you make. Whether you can or can't afford something, whether you do or don't want to do something, whether you feel really guilty about spending money or you are saving everything and not enjoying yourself. There's a whole big conversation to be had around this. So this particular introductory piece of work is just to get you talking either to yourself if you live solo or with a wider family if you're in a really big family unit. This hopefully will become really, really supportive for you in your current journey. So this particular stock take might take you 5 minutes if you just use your gut instinct and if it's something that you actually already talk about and it's comfortable to you, or it might take you an hour. It might open the floodgates to a bigger conversation that ends up taking place over the course of the coming weeks in your relationship. But whatever it might be, it gets you talking. And as we know, talking is often the very first step to feeling better, to feeling well. So some things really, when you're looking at poor financial well-being, how does it feel? What does it look like? How does it manifest? When you're looking at occupational well-being, maybe you're actually getting a bit fed up with your co-workers and your boss, and your impatience is getting a little bit off the scale, and actually your productivity is decreasing because you're genuinely really worried about money most of the time, and it's just having that impact on the way that you think about daily activities. Maybe your mental health is taking a real battering because you are so worried that it's causing you to have poor sleep. Maybe you aren't eating as well as you should be. Maybe you're just grabbing takeaways because you can't be bothered to do cooking more often than not. Or maybe you just don't feel hungry. You're so worried about everything that actually you're just not eating anything, and actually you're losing weight. So there's a whole load of things there that can actually start to take a really big impact on how you feel and how you look after your physical health as well as your mental health. Never underestimate the power of how intrinsically linked your mental well-being and your financial well-being is. If you visit somewhere like mind.org, they've got tons of information on there that will help you through all manner of things. When you're looking into, for example, your social well-being, have you stopped seeing friends as regularly as you used to? Are you avoiding going out for lunch with people because you're worried you haven't got the money to spend on a lunch out? Or maybe you're just feeling incredibly isolated because of having all of these money worries, or you're just in such turmoil with it all. This can manifest in so many different ways. Maybe actually you started gambling, or maybe you've got an addiction that has manifested out of perhaps just having a few extra glasses of wine because you're stressed about money. You just have a couple of extra glasses of wine, and now that's looking like it's really starting to tip over into uncharted territory, and you're getting yourself into trouble. So there's a whole load of stuff here that can actually start to sway that balance. And I think when you're thinking about well-being, it's feeling well most of the time, and it's that feeling of being in balance. No one has it all together, let's be honest. We all out of kilter in some way or another, but it's just that generalized on most given days, you're feeling all right about it. You're feeling fairly positive about it. So there's a few things there to think about. So the actual stock take itself is a list of 10 questions. And I say it's not everything. You may well find it sparks more questions for you. Fine. Go with what works for you. But if you're struggling to think of anything, that first step forward, this might be really useful for you. Let's go through these 10 questions. What you might find useful, just before we get started, is if you can't articulate things terribly easily to yourself, because this is completely alien to you, think about your confidence and your positivity or your knowledge in terms of a sliding scale, with 1 being not great and 10 being pretty good. That might help you to kind of understand where you're at in the grand scheme of things. So let's have a look. Question number 1. How do you feel? How knowledgeable do you feel with regards to managing your budget? Are you feeling pretty positive about it? You know what's going on. You know how much you're spending on things. Now, I'll caveat this as well. To each their own when it comes to managing their money. You may find that you are like a bookkeeper, an accountant when it comes to spending your money. Every line item makes a difference and you're all over it. Brilliant. That works for you. Fabulous. For other people, you prefer more of a generalization. You know, let's just say, for example, you've got £500 a month to spend on stuff as a family, and it's not allocated to food, it's not allocated to anything essential. It's just money that you can use for days out, for maybe some new clothes, going out for lunch, taking the kids to the cinema, whatever it might be. And you don't necessarily want to line by line detail it. So this is, you do you. But the first question is, how, on a sliding scale, if it suits you, how confident are you that you are knowledgeable about what's coming in and going out of your account and you're happy with that? Number 2, you're working on a plan to pay back everything that you owe. And not all debt is bad. You know, you might have a car on finance. Fine, that suits you and your family set up. You can afford it. It's not a problem. Carry on. But if you're worried that you have got some debt, you are not in debt. There's a big difference there in terms of your mindset shift. You have some debt and you've got a plan to pay that back within a given time frame, and you're confident you've got that going on. That's question 2. Question 3, your confidence and ability to pay your bills on time and live a healthy, happy lifestyle. Question 4, you are seeing friends and family. You've got some future plans for yourself, for your friends, with your family, and you've got joy in life. Number 5, your relationship with money. Now, this is a really big one. I'm going to just kind of give you a little bit of an overview, but this may be the one bit of a sticking point in your conversations that actually needs a little bit of extra TLC, depending on where you're at, of course. Would you classify yourself as a saver? Does that tip into the balance of actually being a bit miserly, overly frugal, unnecessarily nitpicky? Does it drive your partner crazy? Or maybe you're a very sensible saver. Or are you more of a spender? Are you going in the other direction? And do you overspend? Do you have feelings of guilt around your spending? Do you buy things and then feel really bad about it, and it's taken the joy out of that dopamine hit you got in the first place? Do you then take those items back for refunds? Was it just that hit that you needed? Do you do online shopping and then your Amazon delivery driver is there at your house every single day, so much so you know his first name? Or do you find that actually you have a very healthy relationship with money and you are really on balance with everything that you're buying and you're really content with all your purchases? You're not wasting any money. You don't buy frivolously. You are buying with intention and you're loving life. That's a big question. Number 6, your ability to pay your bills, in terms of having your feelings involved. So when we all know in the news, on the newspapers, etc., that certain bills are going up again, does it make you feel really distressed? Do you know it's going to have a really negative impact on your life? Do you feel like, oh God, it's a bit of an eye-rolling one? Oh no, our mortgage has gone up again with the interest rates changing. It's like, oh God, not again. But it's not a deal breaker. It's annoying and it does have an impact, but it it isn't a big deal breaker. Where are you in that scale? Number 7, how organized are you with your life admin? So I really believe that one of the key elements of any budget, any spending plan, is your organization. That's, you know what's coming in, you know what's going out, you get letters through the post or emails around your bank statements or your mortgage statements, whatever they may be, and they're up to date, they're organized, and you know when your renewals are due, you know when your car insurance is due, and you make sure you take great steps to organizing yourself a better deal. Question number 8, have you got emergency savings? So if something went wrong and you had to get your hands on 500 quid, 800 quid, 1,000 quid, whatever it might be, can you do that? Yeah, it's always going to sting, let's be honest. You'd rather have the money in savings, but do you have it in savings? Or if something goes wrong and you need that kind of money, are you going to have to rely on the credit card or the kids' savings accounts? Or some other means, borrowing it off a friend or a family member? That emergency savings account can give you so much reassurance, I can't tell you. But do you have it in place? Question 9, do you have lifestyle dreams or goals that someday I'd love to? This is a real big one. And if you're in a relationship, this can be a very interesting conversation. It can go one of two ways, let's be honest. It can reveal gaping holes in your relationship that you think, I wish we hadn't opened that can of worms. And I hope for you that isn't the case. But it might be that one of you wants to head in one direction and one of you isn't quite so keen on that direction. And maybe that's a big conversation you actually have to have at some stage. Or maybe, like we had the conversation, something I've wanted to do for a long time, and so I say, we wanted to buy a house in France, and I was always like, oh no, it's never going to happen. How on earth am I ever going to afford it? Blah, blah, blah. Somehow we've both wanted to do it and we've made it happen. We have a house in France, and yes, it needs some work doing to it, but we have what we wanted. And it's not until you realize what you want together, and it can be small things, it can be big things, you can at least work to making it happen. And when you're on that same page, there's nothing like it, because actually you can then point yourselves in that right direction and make it happen. But do you have these goals? Are you having these conversations? Do you have things written down? Do you have an ideal? You've got to have something. If you have nothing, you have nothing to work towards. There's kind of no real purpose. So having that's really important. And the last question, in terms of your future planning, do you have something in place? Do you have some pensions? Are you making use of your pensions at work and your schemes? Do you have an idea about what retirement might look like for you? And that might be years away, but trust me, it creeps up on you pretty bloody quickly. Do you have something in place that next year, in 5 years' time, in 20 years' time, you will thank yourself that you've put something in place to get you to where you wanted to be? As much as enjoying life for today, of course. But here's just 10 particular questions that I like to put together just to get my brain thinking about where I am and where I want to go. I'm hoping this will be really useful for you. The last page, which I won't go through right now, but it's all about, what did that reveal to you? What do you need to do differently? There's a couple of areas here that I've put in with regards to some other resources that might be really important to you. But having that conversation with yourself about what you really want out of life, we don't always tend to have those. Or maybe it's like 3 a.m, you've had far too much to drink and you don't remember what you even said anyway. So this hopefully will be really revealing for you. You might, out of this, have a list of things which then we're back to square one of that sort of feeling of overwhelm, that feeling of anxiety, got so much to take care of. But just take a breath, just take a beat. What's the most important thing that you do first? Not all of it. Just pick one thing, and maybe it's having that conversation with your HR manager at work about, what does the pension scheme look like? How much extra could you put in, and what benefit would that do for your pension? Maybe it's getting your budget in place and actually making sure you have got a spending plan and you know what the hell's going on with your money, and anything in between those two things. Just do one thing and you'll feel so much better for it. If you need any help, got any queries, have a question, bung them in the comments, get in touch with me and I'll help. Take care.